AI is getting way too expensive. Whether you're paying $200 a month for a max plan or burning your API credits in production. But here's the thing, the problem isn't the model pricing. It's that 90% of developers are running unoptimized AI workflows, picking the wrong AI model for the task, using maximum effort for trivial tasks, and letting failed tool calls loop endlessly. And just like that, the bill just quietly climbs. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how to audit where your tokens are leaking and also show you 7 practical architectural fixes that can cut your AI bill in half and some of them by 90%. And these can work whether you're using Claude Code, Cursor, Codex, you name it. So let's dive in. Before we fix anything, the step 1 is to audit where your tokens are actually going. You can't optimize what you can't see. So first of all, what you need to do is check your context. Anytime you ask Claude Code, Cursor, whatever, a specific prompt, it does have a lot of built-in context of whatever you have asked for in the past. So your tools can silently bloat your context behind your back. So if you just simply use the command /context instead of Claude Code, then you can essentially see exactly where your app is getting loaded. So if you take a look over here, if you take a look at this breakdown, skills 8.5k tokens, memory files almost 0, and these are the messages. So where did 671,000 tokens go? Over 98% of the consumed context is trapped in the conversation history. Past file dumps, tool execution traces, failed attempts, all are accumulating on every single turn, which is why you need to basically assess context to bring more awareness to the problem. So one option to help with this is to compact your history so that you are not resending those many tokens on every single message, because the context basically gets attached to every single prompt. So even if you say, hey, can you also fix this typo, is going to cost you a lot more because the context is going to get attached. So what you could do is run /compact to summarize the conversation down to what matters. Or you could also just run /clear when you're starting a genuinely new task. So my rule of thumb is a new task, new session. Don't let a refactor from Tuesday impact your bug fix on Thursday. Those are 2 separate sessions, so 2 separate tasks. So now that you can see the leaks, you can essentially fix them very easily. Now there are a lot of nuggets I share in this specific video. If you just want a handy cheat sheet that you can simply feed to your AI agent to not repeat any of the mistakes or any of the things that I'm going to talk about, then take a look at the link in the description below to download a cheat sheet completely for free. This is the most easiest one, but the biggest mistake that developers make. If you're using Claude Code or any of the harnesses, you need to check your effort level. Now there are a few different types of effort levels here. For example, in Claude Code, we have low, medium, high, extra, max. Majority of the time, I'm at the default high level or medium. Extra and max, honestly, very rarely. High effort means that the model spends more time thinking before it even answers. It sounds great, but the curve isn't necessarily linear. Going from medium effort to ultra might give you the 1% bump in task accuracy, but it is also going to cost you 5 times more in terms of usage. So you're paying 5 times more for the model to triple check the word it already got right. So here's a simple rule I use. Medium effort is where I typically stay by default. Low effort for any sort of boilerplate code, renaming, formatting, simple tasks, anything that doesn't require a lot of model's brain. And you want to save the high effort or high effort for genuinely hard stuff, such as a multi-file architectural bugs, some race conditions, or some legacy module that you're dealing with that nobody knows about. Maybe you want to save for that. But I typically stick to medium or high in majority of the. The next one is always start in plan mode. There's a spicy take. The biggest token burner isn't writing code, it's writing the wrong code. If you start in plan mode, you're basically planning a specific feature. So the model is going to ask you a bunch of questions before you can finalize your decisions. And a lot of the times, it's the decisions that can really cost us. So instead of taking 50 turns trying to fix it and getting your model to waste a lot of tokens, no, that's not what I want, and then try to rewrite your specific prompt. What you would want to do instead is start in plan mode. Plan mode will force a quick question and answer round before writing a single line of code is generated, and the model will ask clarifying questions. as well. So that will surface any unknowns that you have, any doubts, or it will get you to rethink how you want to solve this specific feature, for example, and show you its plan. Once you review the plan, and that's what all senior engineers do, they review the plan just to make sure that's exactly how they would also implement it. Or maybe the model has a better idea. You can ask clarifying questions and then go on. It's the same thing like having like an architectural review meeting before implementing a massive feature in the company. Someone demos it and gives a presentation to the entire team, and then you ask questions and get feedback or whatever. That's the same idea. So you spend maybe 2,000 tokens in planning to avoid burning 200,000 on rework. So cheapest tokens you'll ever spend are those that would prevent a bad direction. So I would highly recommend you stick in plan mode. I'm sure you must have heard this before. You need to pick the right model, and I would suggest using a tiering strategy here. Stop using flagship models for routine work. It really bothers me because you need a moderate tiering strategy, and I would divide it into 3 parts. What I would do is start high and downgrade fast rule, which is actually through OpenAI. OpenAI shared this specific rule. You build your feature with the most powerful model first. So you can think of Opus 4.8 or even Claude Sonnet until you hit 90% accuracy on your inputs. Then run the exact same prompt through a mini model, for example, Haiku or GPT-5 Mini or something like that. If the mini model passes the same tests, then you can downgrade immediately. And you want to add like a bunch of accuracy tests, some inputs, so that you get the same output from the mini models as well. So the order matters. Get it working first and get it cheap second. So if you start cheap, you will never know whether the failures are your prompt's fault or the model's fault. And this is a very important one. So make sure you start high and downgrade fast. The next one, like I said, it's a 3-tier strategy: deterministic task versus ambiguous task. And here's a model for choosing a tier. Deterministic task, strict schema. So let's say you want to format this string into JSON, extract these specific fields. A light model can easily handle this. You don't need like a complex model for it. But if there's an ambiguous open-ended task, then you, like for example, redesign this state management architecture. That's reasoning model territory. So you want to make sure that you go for, a model that's more complex and needs that. So more constrained the output, the cheaper the model you can get away with. And again, this is another simple one that you could easily implement. So don't just build a feature, don't just fix the bugs, don't just get AI to do everything. Think a little bit as well and take a step back here. The third one is the router pattern. In production, never hardcode one single model for your entire application. Learn what are the strengths and weaknesses of each model and go through, several of my videos on this channel where I walk through a bunch of different models to show you what they're classified for, what they're good for, and so on. So if the prompt complexity is low, then you want to route it to, for example, GPT-5 Mini. But if the prompt complexity is high, then you want to route to something like Opus or Sonnet. So if the classifier itself runs on the cheapest model available, again, something that we've talked about earlier, and that is going to save you a lot of dollars downstream as well. The next one is that you want to ditch God agents for micro agents. First of all, stop building God agents. I've seen like one agent doing a million things, and that itself is going to cost you so much more money and time and effort. And honestly, it's not a good use of your time or not the agent's time. When developers build these AI workflows, the instinct is to create this massive system prompt, throw in a million different tools, web search, database query, file writing, and hope the LLM figures it out. And it can. However, try to divide it into several agents so different agents are working on different tasks and maybe they can collaborate. Because the problem is that every single time you call that specific LLM, you pay for every tool definition and every system prompt rule in your context window. You're also adding so much context that the model shouldn't care for. So that's thousands of tokens burned before the user even types a single word. Let's take a look at this code. Here is a monolithic God agent. There are 12 schemas for a research workflow. I trigger one simple request and watch the console. Input tokens are basically 14,200. That's a lot. Now the fix is we split this into 2 specialized micro agents. And using the Vercel AI SDK, Agent 1 is a search agent. It only gets the search tool. Agent 2 is a writer agent. Zero tools. It just takes the clean text output from Agent 1. But it's the same task and you can run it again. Now, there's a model job. That's 87% job for the exact same result. So the principle stays the same. An agent should only carry the tools it needs for its job. Everything else is dead because you're paying for every single call. And these are API tokens that I'm talking about because you need to give API access. For example, if you're using Anthropic API, then you need to give that, or OpenAI, whatever. And that is definitely going to cost you. So make sure you follow this specific trick. The next one is the most obvious one. And I think this basically helps AI to be more deterministic than ambiguous overall, is to define skills and context upfront. Define skills and context upfront. You want to give your AI reusable skills and curated context, so it's not rediscovering your code base conventions from scratch or rereading the same files every single time. Imagine you onboard a new coworker, you just give them a bunch of documentation, throw that documentation in skills, and define exactly what they need to know about this. Now, I've covered this in depth in my video that I just released on how senior engineers build with AI, where we basically build a splitwise clone and all using AI, but we define skills and context upfront. So take a look at the link in the description below. But this specific skill file is where you write once and define exactly all the conventions. You define your project architecture, exactly what you would do whenever you onboard a new engineer onto your team. That's the skill file already has that. This makes your AI output more deterministic instead of making it really ambiguous. A skill file you write once will replace thousands of tokens and a lot of trial error, honestly. And you don't have to repeat yourself too, because I've seen a lot of engineers keep repeating themselves the same times. But you have to define exactly how your project is set up and so on. But define skills and context upfront for every project. Then the next one is twofold. You want to stop using LLMs as expensive file search engines and cache everything that repeats. This is a little bit more advanced. So if you hand an agent a 500-line CSV file or a giant code base and ask it to find something, it's going to read thousands of lines of raw text on every single turn. And you are paying LLM prices for a job grep does it for free. So what gets the interesting part? The second one is prompt caching. You can add prompt caching to your Anthropic API request with cache controls. And this is the type for it on a system prompt and stable context. What this does is now run a multi-turn chat and look at the response header. The cache read input tokens is 5,200, but cache creation input tokens is 0. Anthropic will give you a 90% discount on cache input tokens because the system prompt and context were already cached from the previous turn. So this is just caching. Caching is magic, as we all know, even in web development. Like if you are noticing that you're fetching the same data over and over again, then definitely cache that. So that's the same idea. So if your app has repeated context such as system prompts, docs, schemas, and you're not caching it, you are definitely paying 10 times more money than you should be. So definitely keep an eye on that. So to summarize, first audit, running /context and finding the leaks. Then tune your effort level, start in plan mode, tier your models, split God agents into micro agents, cascade big model planning into small execution, define skills 1 instead of having to explain forever, and pre-process plus cache everything that repeats. Stack these together and you can cut your AI bill in half, honestly. The most conservative outcome ever. And if you want a handy cheat sheet, then definitely take a link in the description below and I will give you this cheat sheet so you can reference it anytime or add it as skills so that your AI agent can do it. If this saved your money, or if even there's a single tip that you really like from this specific video, then comment below and let me know, and hit the like button because this is also going to cost you 0 tokens. So subscribe to my channel for more content just like this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.